Greetings, everyone. This is Iron Horse Artist, back with another video. Today is our very first follow-up Friday. We're just going in here to put in our complaints on Sergeant Michael Hollis. You remember the other day at the Board of Education? He was very unprofessional. We're also going to find out why Lieutenant Ellaby never called me back. Finally, we just going in here to see if we can exercise our First Amendment right to record in public, make sure our public employees treat us with respect, promote accountability, honesty, transparency, and professionalism. Let's go check it out. So as I was walking in, I ran into Deputy Chief Rodriguez, and he said he's going to help me with my complaint. I didn't get that on camera, but I'm just reiterating right now. So we're waiting on Deputy Chief Rodriguez. All right. You have a badge number, Deputy Chief?
Sure, it's 3303.
3303?
Sure.
All right, appreciate that. All right, I'm gonna let you follow me. I'm gonna follow you.
All right. If you want to make a complaint, we have there is a specific complaint process.
Right.
And I'll give you the form, and I'll give you a pen, and I'll...
Well, see, the problem with that is I'm only gonna be able to do it verbally.
Well,
That's why I want to speak with someone.
Have a seat.
All right.
That may be how you like to do it.
Right.
I mean, I'll listen to it. I'll listen to your complaint.
Okay.
Have no problem taking your complaint. However, in order for us to process the complaint properly, it needs to be written because...
Wait, the thing is,
let me explain. So just to give you some clarity, okay?
All right.
What's your name, sir?
My name is Ronald.
Ronald. So, Mr. Ronald, there are people in this world that do not tell the truth. Would you agree with that?
I absolutely agree.
Okay, so we do have people in our community that, for whatever their reason is, whatever their reason is, will come and say, I want to complain on Officer X because Officer X did whatever.
Okay.
Right? And what they're telling is factual. They're not lying or anything. But their perception of whatever that situation that took place may not be, may just be that a perception. It may not be what really took place, or they may not have all the facts.
Okay.
So they'll say, I want to complain on Officer X because he didn't do or she didn't do what they felt should have been done. Right?
All right.
So what happens is that people will come and they'll say, I want to complain. I want to complain. I want to complain. And it's really not a complaint.
Okay.
That's part one. Then we have people in this world that, for whatever reason, they don't like law enforcement, whether it's negative interactions or whatever that's happened in their past.
All right.
And they'll see a police officer and they'll say, I don't like the way he looks or she looks. I don't like their attitude. I don't like their disposition or whatever.
Cool.
I'm a human. I'm a citizen of this country, and I can go in there and say whatever I want to say.
Right.
I can just say whatever I want to say. So then they'll come in and say, that person right there did this, and that officer may not have done that. Right.
Okay.
So in every complaint, when we take a complaint, we investigate that complaint.
Right.
Okay. So how we investigate that complaint is through evidence. Just like if somebody stole your car, we're going to say, Mr. Ronald, I need you to write down when you last parked your car, who you gave your keys to, all of that stuff. Right. We do the same thing with a complaint because I can go into any place and just say something, and one, it may not be accurate, or we do have people that'll say, this is what I want to say about Officer X. We go and look into it. We come back and say, well, Mr. Ronald, you said this. And you go, oh, I never said that. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. You see what I'm saying, right? Right. So in order to be fair to you, so that we don't put words in your mouth. Right. And we don't say that Mr. Ronald said this. If Mr. Ronald writes out exactly what it is, then that's the only thing that we're going to be concerned with is what Mr. Ronald said.
Okay, can I respond to that?
Go ahead.
All right, so my response to that is I have a camera with me, you know what I'm saying? So the thing is, I represent people that's legally blind. And don't have the best penmanship and is not able to write. So how do the law protects those people as well.
So we have a way to address that. I'm glad you brought that up.
Okay.
So what we do is if you're unable to write, if you're legally blind and you can't write, then we audio record your statement.
Okay.
So that way again, it's your words, because what ends up happening, just like I said to you before, people, I've been doing this 30 years.
Okay.
And in my experience, people will come to say anything, report a crime, whatever. And sometimes people use words differently than, based on our culture, our upbringing.
Right.
Sometimes we'll say one thing and we mean one thing, but the other person doesn't understand that because they're from a different culture or a different generation. So they understand things a little bit different.
I can understand that.
Okay? So having what you say recorded for us, then that just makes it easier for us to eliminate any chance that we misunderstand what you say, or that you're misunderstood and that we take it the wrong way. Because if our officers have done something that is outside of the policy or the law, we want you to tell us so that we can correct that. Because unfortunately, we can't be with every one of our officers all day long, right? I mean, we're a big
right. I get that. So
when you give us something, we appreciate that, because now that tells us if we could determine that our officer was in a violation, then we know how to correct that from there, right? So we appreciate that information. But at the same time, if somebody says, hey, I'm making something up, just completely making something up, then not only is that inappropriate, but that's also illegal.
Right.
So we're going to do our due diligence on both sides. Right?
Okay.
That's just the right thing to do. It's fair for you and it's fair for us.
Absolutely.
And you'll see that most police departments in this country do similar process. Either you write the complaint down or you have to give a recorded statement.
So what will I need to do to give a recorded statement?
I have a recording device, and then I'll play it and I'll ask you and I'll make notes as to whatever your complaint is.
Okay.
And then I'll walk you through the steps of how we investigate the complaint.
All right.
And what happens from there.
All right. So can we do that today?
Yes, sir. Just hang tight right there.
Thank you.
Let me grab something to assist you with.
All right. Waiting on Deputy Chief Rodriguez.
Okay, we are recording. Today's date is Friday, December 13th. It's approximately 12:58. My name is Deputy Chief Rob Rodriguez. I am at the Board of Education Police Department headquarters located in Port Wentworth, Georgia. We are in a conference room located in my office, and I am with
Ronald.
Ronald, what is your last name? Good cell phone number that if I needed to call you to ask you additional questions, I could reach you at.
Yes, 912.
Okay. I told you the date is 13th. It's 12:58 or now 12:59. Mr. Ronald, is that okay if I call you Mr. Ronald?
That's right.
All right, Mr. Ronald, you said that you wanted to talk to somebody about a complaint
on Sergeant Michael Hollis.
Okay, the officer is Sergeant Hollis. When did this happen?
This took place on the 11th, December the 11th.
Do you have a approximate time that it took place?
I would say in between the hours of 1 and 2.
Okay.
Because I think when I look back at the video, I think I was there maybe an hour or so.
Okay, so we'll just say 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock-ish.
Okay. At about approximately, I'll just write.
Right.
Approximately 1. That way it gives approximately. Okay. All right, so tell me the details of. Well, first of all, let me ask you, what is the complaint first? What you could think the title of it.
Well, the title of the complaint is once he realized that I was recording, because at first I came through the metal detectors and I passed through the mag and things like that. Once I pull out my camera, the young lady began to ask me for my name, and I wrote my name down, which is the name I go by, Iron Horse. She wrote it down actually because, of course, what's going on with me. But she wrote my name down, and I was just, peacefully telling them what was going on. I just want to take pictures in the publicly accessible area, and that's it. But they begin to say that they need my ID and all things like that. But I asked them, did I commit a crime or anything to give up my ID? So Sergeant Hollis came out to say, no. At first he was like, we'll get somebody to escort you. I was like, that's fine. I just want to go to the publicly accessible areas. And then he went to show me a code outside the door. I don't know if that was a tactic to get me out of there, but maybe not. But he showed me the code. I looked up the code. It was Georgia code 16-11-127. And it basically was telling me that it was no weapons on school property, and it was basically saying that you have to be screened for weapons. And I was trying to understand, why would he show me that code, when I had no weapons? I went through the metal detector perfectly fine. And I began to tell him what I was going to do. He said that he had something to do, and he began to get back in the door and shut the door on me and holding the door while I'm standing outside trying to get into the public building. And I'm telling him, like, Sarge, you said you had something to do. All I want to do is just take pictures. So now he was telling me to get in contact with the deputy chief, he said the chief Enoch. So I began to call Enoch, and he didn't answer the phone. So I asked him to call his lieutenant to the scene. He wouldn't even call his lieutenant to the scene. He gave me his phone number. He did give me his phone number. I called the Lieutenant Ellaby. Mm-hmm. I got in contact with him. I spoke with him on the phone. He said he's on his way. So I waited about 30 minutes before I called him back. Mm-hmm. And when I called him back, no answer. So I went in the building to ask Sergeant Hollis to get in contact with his lieutenant. He said he'll call him again. And I told him, just keep calling him because I'm trying to I need some assistance here. And he began to, when I told him, he said, come on in. I said, so now I could come in, right? He said, well, yeah. And I said, man, just go get the chief address. And he's telling me he's not going to do it because now he feels like I'm coming on to him. But the whole time I was trying to peacefully tell him what I was doing. I wasn't breaking the law. So, I didn't want to give up my ID, and they didn't want to hear that. So,
okay. So you think it would be okay if I said that was his conduct and
yeah, just a little conduct and unprofessionalism.
Okay.
Especially as a sergeant.
And it recorded what you said, so I'm not going to try to write it all down.
Okay, that's cool.
So that's the benefit of that.
Right.
So let me kind of walk you through some things.
Okay.
So that and if you come into the Board of Education office, mm-hmm. Okay, no matter what your reason is, how when you go through, you put your stuff on the thing,
right,
and it goes through the thing, and then you walk through the metal detector,
mm-hmm.
right? And then when you walk up, there's a lady that sits at a desk,
right?
Okay, and then over to the right is some chairs.
Mm-hmm.
If you go past those chairs, you have to fill out a visitor's form that sticks to your shirt that has a picture of you.
Okay.
They get that from your driver's license or other state identification information. Now, if you fall under the ADA issues of, if you're blind, then they have a mechanism where they help you enter that information in, because there's a little machine that you enter that information in, and it prints out a sticker.
Okay.
And the sticker goes on there. So that's for everybody, whether you go in there to video, you go in there to add your kid, take your kid out, no matter what you're doing.
Okay.
And if you're not an employee and you don't have one of these cards,
right,
you gotta have that sticker.
Okay.
So that's the first thing, right?
So the sticker requires a picture, you say?
Yes.
So
the reason is because, and I'm sure that you're an honest guy and you're just trying to do your thing.
Right.
But again, I told you there are people in this world that do not have the same scruples that you do.
Okay.
And will do things like, we've had people come in there and say, they'll say, I'm Rob Rodriguez.
Right.
And they're not, but they'll go in there and they give you something that doesn't have my picture. That doesn't mean that who I am. But if it has your picture and your picture matches the person that's standing there, then they know that's who you are.
Right. I understand what you're saying, Deputy Chief, but it's a way that you could do things, even if they were professional and said, this is the way you got to do it.
Yes,
but
sir.
The lady came out and just told me I can't record in here. It was just like hostile off the muscle. So
yes, sir. So let me say this. Now, typically, the policy of the district when people want to record is very specific. Now,
okay, Deputy Chief, you said policy, right?
Yeah. So what the district allows, what their rules are to record.
But we're talking about the distinguishing policy from the law. The law gives me the right to record.
I get that. But
okay.
Let me give you an example. So, what's a good restaurant of yours?
A restaurant? I like Chili's.
Love Chili's. My wife and I went last week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Chili's is a restaurant, right?
Right.
And you can walk in the door, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can walk in the door.
Right.
So let's say that you and your family walk in the door at Chili's. The law says that you can go in there and eat.
Right.
Okay. But Chili's can say, you can't.
Right. So
they don't, and because that's their business.
Okay, I got you.
And then they have the authority to say,
absolutely.
Just like when you go into a hospital, hospitals require that only certain number of people can go, like to say the ICU or certain areas of the hospital, only certain number of people can go in there. Right?
I got you.
So their organizational rules can dictate what you do.
Right. So let me stop you right there. Now, the thing about Chili's and the hospital, that is privately owned businesses. We're talking about public property that's open to the public.
I understand.
And we contribute through tax dollars to pay that. So Chili's wasn't a good example.
It's a good example because
what?
Because public can walk in and out of there.
Right. So but at any time they could tell you to leave.
But
without no problem.
Here's the thing though, is you can't walk into, let's say, here's an example. The White House. That's a public building.
Right.
Okay. But you and I can't just walk in there, and we can't just walk into President Biden's office. We just, even though it's a public building,
right?
We're Americans, and we can go anywhere in the public. We can't just walk in there.
No, absolutely. That's the White House. That's different. You got to take measures of security to enter the right house. Exactly. But we're talking about a publicly accessible building.
Exactly.
I went through the metal detector.
Listen to me. I hear what you're saying, and it's not about you going through the metal detector.
It is. It's talking about weapons.
Listen to me.
I'm going to listen to you.
The issue is not about you going through the weapons detector, right? That has nothing to do with that.
All right.
So when you go in that building, right, there is the superintendent, her office. You have some of the board members, their offices are in there. You have other people that work within the district in their office. The reason that people just can't walk in and out of there is for several reasons. Number one, there's a lot of protected and sensitive information that is not accessible to the public. Even though the building, you may be able to, the public has access to the building, doesn't necessarily mean that because you have access to the building that you're entitled to everything in there.
No, I'm talking about just the publicly accessible areas.
I know, and so that's where I was trying to go when you stopped me.
Okay, go ahead, man. Go ahead, talk. Yeah. I'm gonna let you talk, then you let me talk, right?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I'm okay with that. So the district has come up with a way to allow people to come in if they want to ask questions, see things in the publicly accessed areas of the facility. We have a communications department.
Mm-hmm.
And what is supposed to happen is I go and I say, hey, I want to come in and I want to walk around and I want to see where my tax dollars are being spent. I want to see how we're utilizing our tax dollars. Why am I paying such a high millage rate for whatever the case may be? They make an appointment with communications, and in communications will do just what Sergeant Hollis was trying to explain to you, which was you get escorted. Then they take you to all the publicly accessible areas that are within the building. They will tell you what can and cannot be videoed. Not that you can't, the law doesn't allow you to video in public places. However, you're at the Board of Education, and like I said, there are certain documents, images that are protected under a law called FERPA.
Right.
Okay. And so I don't know what offices have that information open.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they've got student pictures on the wall in the area that you want to video. So that's why we allow communications to do that. Now, so the issue as I see it is, and please tell me if I'm wrong, there's two issues. One, the way that Sergeant Hollis treated you while you were there at the office.
Yes, and I have video proof.
And he did not provide you with the customer service that you believe that you were entitled to.
Absolutely.
Okay, right. So that's part one. So I would like to see the footage or get a copy of the footage so that it can help me in my investigation.
Okay.
That's part one. Now, part two is the way that you were approached about having to surrender your identification,
right,
to whatever, right? Now, again, if hopefully you have that recorded so that I can listen to that interaction,
right,
and then I can make either make determinations of what took place and if any corrections are required.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's that. Now, as far as going in and public and video, taking pictures or whatever, the best answer I can give you for the third part is you can make an appointment with, her name is Sheila Blanco.
Sheila Blanco.
She
okay.
is she is in communications, and she does all the media, all the press, all of that stuff. She's our liaison with that person.
All right.
She is the person that would be, that if she doesn't have the answer,
mm-hmm.
because she's in the communications department, she can provide you with the answer that you need to get to whatever it is that you are looking to obtain, whatever that is. She'll be that conduit to do that. All right.
Okay.
So
now, you ready for me to talk now?
Sure.
All right. So I understand everything you're telling me. I understand, what you're trying to imply or what you're trying to get across to me. But you guys are law enforcement. Number one thing that you're supposed to do is uphold the Constitution. The Constitution grants me the right to record. I have the right to free press in this country. So if I'm explaining to said persons, said individuals, that what I'm doing is constitutionally protected, that's all that matters. Sergeant Hollis, all he had to do was uphold his oath to the Constitution, and grant me my rights to take pictures. If I was going in there causing a disturbance, that was different. But I calmly explained to them what I was doing and what I was trying to do. I was okay with the escort. But then the way he turned on me, it was kind of like, come on, man. Don't act like that. I just got a camera on you. He talking about he's going to arrest me if I get in his personal space. I never threatened to get in his personal space. So why would he even, come off like that? So it's the fact of the matter that he swore an oath to the Constitution. He's supposed to uphold that. And I have a problem with that. Like I say, I represent people that's legally blind and, that don't know the rights that we have. So that's what I'm doing. Okay. You got a problem with that?
So here's my retort. You said that we have you have a right to freedom of press.
Right.
So, and I agree 100%. I'm a staunch supporter of our Constitution and our laws, even if some people don't think that they're effective. Typically, people that come in and assert that they're a member of a press provide some kind of credentials that say they're a part of, whether they're an independent.
The First Amendment is the credentials. But we don't have to provide no credentials.
That you have free press.
Right. That's under the First Amendment of the Constitution.
But when you come in and say, "Hey, I want to do this under that," under that particular umbrella of press,
right?
They provide credentials.
Yeah, I mean, you can make credentials,
but you can do that as an independent, and
right.
More importantly, members of the press corps or people that work in that arena.
Who would you suggest me to go get some credentials from?
Well, I know that there are organizations in this country.
Right. I'm an organization, so I make my own.
That provide. I'm not working in the press corps, so I can't give you that.
Right. So that's what I'm saying.
That would be something for you to.
The Constitution, the First Amendment of the Constitution is my credentials. Point blank.
Well, we're not going to debate.
I ain't going to debate, but it's just the truth.
I'm not going to debate with you as far as the lead.
Is Chief Terry
no,
Enoch?
He's not here.
Oh, okay.
So he's not here.
Okay, well, I'll get in contact with him.
Yeah, you have to get with his secretary and then.
Yeah, I'll do all that. I feel you.
Yeah,
I feel you.
So, but to get what you want, if you want to, there's only two things that I can do. One, I can address your complaint with Sergeant Hollis and the young lady that.
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Okay. Now, as far as you getting inside to do your video and stuff, I'm gonna have to refer you to Miss Sheila.
Sheila, what's her name? Blanco. Yeah.
Because Miss Blanco is the person that you need to go to.
You have a number for Miss Sheila Blanco?
I think I have her office number.
All right.
Let me see if I have her.
And you could just put it on the recording.
Let's see. See if I have her number. Her office number is 912-395-5538.
5538. Okay.
Yeah. And then so they probably have an administrative assistant or somebody or secretary or somebody that'll answer.
Right.
And so my suggestion is that you just call and say, "Hey, this is Mr. Ronald. I'd like to make an appointment with Ms. Sheila." Now, remind you when you come back for your appointment, you're going to have to do the same process I told you. You go through the metal detector just like you did.
Yeah.
Once you get through the metal detector,
I'll give them an ID with a picture on it.
Yeah, and then they do the ID and they'll give you a sticker. They'll have you sit in to the right. Miss Sheila will come get you, and then you'll go back to her office, and then you do whatever it is that you have. Ask her whatever questions you want.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Deputy Chief Rodriguez, but we try to get out and exercise our rights, and if we don't exercise them, they'll be taken away from us. You know what I'm saying? So if I come in and I'm belligerent and I'm disorderly, that's one thing. But if I'm peacefully explaining to an officer who swore an oath to uphold the Constitution what I'm doing, then that should be, it should be accepted.
And like I said, I don't want to debate with you about the Constitution, but I just want to give you an example of.
Talk to me, man. I'm listening.
About how this can get very quickly misinterpreted.
Right.
So another hot topic is the Second Amendment.
Right.
Okay. Which says that we have the right to bear arms.
Right.
So the Constitution doesn't say what kind of arms.
Okay.
Right.
Talk to me.
So if I just go by that and say that the Constitution says I have the right to bear arms. Right. I could go get a bazooka and walk around town with a bazooka.
Okay.
Now, do you think that is, do you think that would be allowed?
If you are peacefully exercising your Second Amendment right, if you're not causing any disturbances, if you're not disorderly, then yes, it should be legal for you to walk around. If you have the proper credentials, if you have the proper license to carry, you have to present that kind of stuff when it comes to the Second Amendment.
But that's great. But see, now the Second Amendment doesn't require you have a license. It doesn't require you have any credentials. It doesn't require any of that. But here's what the point.
But certain state laws and statutes do.
All right, but there we go. So now that's the point that I'm getting at is the Constitution is the overarching authority. Right.
Absolutely.
It's the end all to be all. Right? And a lot of times, like I said, in my 3 decades of doing this, I've been in a lot of debates and discussions
about the Constitution,
about whether with regular citizens or either colleagues,
right, and
scholars.
Okay.
And what I found is that we all, through our just being humans, have our own interpretation of it, what we believe that means. Right. And a lot of times, what your interpretation is may not necessarily align with my interpretation.
So, do you feel that my interpretation of the First Amendment was wrong?
No, here's what
because there's no statute saying nothing about, in Georgia especially, about, recording and things like that. He showed me a statute, but that was talking about weapons, bringing in weapons.
And without listening to the whole conversation.
I'm going to show you the video.
Yeah, without listening to it, just to answer your question, most of the people that come in there do not like to be screened for weapons. They feel that it's an invasion of their privacy. Okay. So that's why the law requires that we put the sign out that says if you want to enter.
And that's a state law. That's a statute.
Yeah. And so, but we also have the right, even though it's a publicly accessed building, like you can go to the courthouse, Chatham County Courthouse, and you can walk in there, and if you're in there, and they say to you, hey, sir, we need you to leave. And you go, no, I ain't leaving because this is a publicly accessed building and I have a right to do that. They do have the right to remove you.
Yeah, I mean, they could do what they please, but it's not what the trespassing law says that I have to commit a crime to be trespassed.
Well, actually, no, 16.7.21.
Well, I'm gonna look that up. You might know more than me, but I'm gonna look that up.
Under criminal trespass, it has a couple of elements. The first one says that if I intentionally damage somebody's property, and that property is less than $500, that's criminal trespass. Right. Okay. Then another part of that is if I enter or remain on somebody's property when I have been told not to be on their property. So that's it says no trespassing.
Not public property, sir.
It says no trespassing. Right,
that's private property normally.
And you come on there like the government. You can't go to Fort Stewart and just walk on the base.
No,
because there's signs that say no trespassing unless you have legal authority to be on the base, right?
But if they don't have the signs, then what?
And so the third element is what we call is if you're on property and you're legally there at somebody's place, public and or private, and the person that is in charge of that or has authority over that property asks you to leave and you refuse to leave, then you've committed to trespass.
That's not true. But I mean, we could agree to disagree.
Oh, I'm gonna hold on one second.
Yeah, okay, that's cool.
So I'm gonna read it to you right out of it, just because I don't want you to think.
I got the camera for transparency, so
yeah, I just want to.
We learning.
So 16721, like I told you, under the official code of Georgia annotated. We call it OCGA for short.
Right.
A person commits the offense of criminal trespass when he or she intentionally damages the property of another without their consent of that other person, and the damage thereto is $500 or less. What I told you.
Right. That's correct.
B, a person commits the offense of criminal trespass when he or she knowingly and without authority enter or remains upon the land or premises of another person or into any part of any vehicle, rail car, aircraft, watercraft, or other person for an unlawful person. Part 2 of that, enter upon the land or premises of another person or into any part of their vehicle, rail car, aircraft, watercraft, or another person after receiving, prior to such entry, notice from the owner, rightful occupant, or other proper identification, an unauthorized representative or an authorized representative of the owner or rightful occupant that such entry is forbidden. So if they tell you in advance that you can't be there, it could be the owner, lawful occupant, somebody that's authorized.
Absolutely.
Here you go. Remains upon the land or, this is 3, remains upon the land or premises of another person or within the vehicle, rail car, aircraft, or watercraft of another person after receiving notice from the owner, rightful occupant, or upon proper identification, an authorized representative of the person or rightful occupant to depart.
Okay, so that's saying after they tell me, then I have to go, right?
Exactly.
Right. So yeah, you're right.
So like I said, I've been doing this 30 years and I know a little bit about it. And what I'm saying to you is I'm just trying to give you all the facts, whether they're right, wrong, or indifferent.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to give you all the information.
Well, we just getting to the bottom of it, but the thing is that, still the complaint is Sergeant Hollis's behavior.
I'm gonna address his attitude, his conduct, and the young lady that was at the thing. I'd like to look at the video.
Yeah, I'll let you see it before we leave,
so that I can make some notes and I can see what was said, because Sergeant Hollis also has a body camera.
Right. Yeah.
So I'll pull his body camera footage.
Yeah.
So it'll have all of
everything. Yeah.
Everything that was recorded.
It looked like one of the times he was cutting it on while he was talking to me. So a lot of stuff gonna be probably missed.
We'll see.
We'll see. I don't know.
And so now let me tell you about the complaint process.
Okay.
So the complaint process works like this. I am going to I'll take your complaint. I'm going to assign it to his lieutenant to investigate. That lieutenant will have at least 10 working days to do the initial investigation.
All right.
At the end of the 10 days, that lieutenant may say, I need more time.
Right. I know the law, grants some more time.
But let's just say they were able to wrap it up in 10 days.
Right.
At the end of the 10 days, they're going to look at it and say, I'm going to make a judgment that I think that Hollis operated within the policy or he operated outside of the policy.
Okay.
Sometimes you can operate within the policy, meaning that you did the right thing.
Just bad behavior. Or a bad attitude or something like that.
Or whatever, right? So what'll happen is that they will reach out, that lieutenant will reach out to you at this number here, this 306 number, and they will ask for a mailing address, and they will type up a letter and send you a letter and say, we have conducted our investigation. And the letter will only say one of three things. We investigated your complaint and we found that there were violations and we are correcting that with the employee.
Okay? All right.
That's option 1. Option 2 is we investigated the complaint and we could not substantiate any of the claims that you said. Therefore, the complaint is unfounded.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that it didn't happen. It just wasn't enough evidence to support it.
Right.
The third option is we investigated your complaint, looked at all the evidence, and we exonerate him or her because nothing we found to be accurate.
Right.
So it's just one of those 3 things.
Okay.
So those are the things that'll happen as it relates to the complaint.
All right.
That's typically how the complaint process works. Now, if they have to extend it a little further, then they'll reach out to you, and say, hey, I still need some more time. I need to look at this because we've got video cameras in the building. So they might say, hey, I'd like to look at the video cameras inside or outside of the Board of Education office.
Right.
And they might say, or hey, we need to talk to a witness or whatever the case may be. Typically, they will call you and say, hey, I'm still working on your complaint. I haven't completed it yet.
Right.
And then the other thing is sometimes they may call you back in and ask you some additional questions.
Mm-hmm.
So like everything that you said in your in the statement that I'm recording.
All right.
Moment, you may say something that doesn't match what they see on the building camera.
Right.
And they may need you to clarify it.
Okay.
So those are the things that will dictate the length and time of the investigation.
All right.
So that's typically how the complaint. Do you have any specific questions about that?
No, I think everything has been, and I appreciate your time, though. Command, you the deputy chief. I appreciate your time, deputy chief, man. I appreciate the dialogue. You know,
it was a good conversation.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Even though sometimes we, as people in law enforcement, what I do is try to bridge the gap between law enforcement and the citizens.
Well, see, the thing is, and I'll tell you this: law enforcement is the community. We're no different from the community. What makes us different is we get paid to enforce rules, regulations, laws, statutes, whatever you want to call them, right?
Right.
Okay. A lot of times people don't understand what the laws are. Like, let me give you, this is going to be off topic, but I want to make my point. I grew up, and Georgia's not my home, but I grew up most of my life in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
And I was always told it's against the law to drive barefooted or with flip-flops. And there's no such law.
Oh, okay.
There is no such law in this book. You can look it up on Google.
Or whatever.
You can search it anywhere you like. Now, other states may have that, but Georgia doesn't have that. Just like, here's an example. There is not a law that says child abuse. There is a law that says cruelty to children. Right. And there is a law that says simple battery, that can be applied to a child. Right. But people will argue with me and say, oh, yeah, I know the law. I know the law. The law says that there's a child abuse law. Right. No, ma'am, there's not. Or here's another one. There's a law against harassment. Not specifically harassment. There's one that's called harassing phone calls. There's one that's called stalking. But a lot of times people will, just through their life experiences, they believe in their heart of hearts. And if you gave them a polygraph, a lie detector test, they'd pass in 100% of the time because they believe that in their core. But just because people say it doesn't mean that it's accurate. I got you. And so what we have to do, when I say we, law enforcement officers in our official capacity, and what the community has to do is we both have to say, I can understand your point of view. I don't have to agree with your point of view, but I can understand and I can be open to receiving the discord that we have, the communication about it. Because that's what it boils down to. Like I told you, I've been doing this a long time. One of the funniest things that always makes me laugh is if I stop you and I go to write you a ticket for speed and running right, people will say, why don't you go catch a real criminal? Mm-hmm. But speeding is a crime, right? Whether we intended to do it or not. No, you're just picking on me because I'm a young kid, a young girl, and I'm in a fast car. Mm-hmm. No, I'm stopping you because you committed whatever that violation is. I get you. So you see what I'm saying? So I think the answer to your mission is not only doing things like you're doing, having conversations, becoming educated on not only the law, but one of the things I would suggest to you, especially if you're going to continue your quest, is do research on constitutional law interpretation. Okay. Because, like I said, different people interpret the law based on their level of understanding. Right. Okay. And it's not that they're intending to treat anybody wrong, or they just have a threshold of of understanding or their awareness of it, right?
Right. Well, even in the difference of opinions on how we interpret the law, it still requires that public officials should act in professionalism.
Oh, I agree.
You see what I'm saying?
No one's disputing that.
Right.
And
Yeah.
no
So
one would ever dispute that.
yeah. So
But then
just to clear that up,
yeah,
you know what I'm talking about?
I would say to you is that as citizens we have the right to be respectful and
yeah, but public officials are held to a different standard, to be honest.
Yes and no. So let me give you an example. When I go home at night,
got a lot of examples.
I take my uniform off, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I go to Chili's, right? And I order the crispy chicken tenders, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's the meal that I order. Let's say they come out and they're not as crispy as I want, right? Because I'm a paying customer, does not grant me the right to jump up and down and holler and scream and say, you did this to me and I demand these things. I still have the expectation is that I provide my response to the manager in the most respectful manner that I can. Just say, look, I'm not happy with the service. I would like to file a complaint, or I would like to speak to the owner, and I would like to write, a letter say that, hey, I didn't feel like I got the service that I paid for, right?
Okay.
Right. That is the way to handle that. Now, does it mean that I'm not upset? Does it mean that I'm not frustrated or that I feel like I've been cheated? I could feel that way, and those feelings are 100% valid, and no one's trying to take those feelings. But when you go one step to the right or one step to the left, it takes the context of what you're trying to address away, and now that becomes the focus.
Okay.
That becomes the conduct becomes the focus, not the original issue.
There you go.
Right. So
there you go.
Like in your issue is you want to go in there and video and ask questions or do whatever it is so you can report to your viewers and say, hey, this is whatever it is that you're trying to do.
There you go.
That's the underlying authority, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the underlying issue. But now, what ends up happening is because there was either a miscommunication, poor communication, bad customer service, or whatever it was, or just plain out being mean, whatever, because I don't know at this point.
Right.
Whatever that was, it took the focus off of what you wanted to do and it went to that, right?
Right.
So what I've always encouraged people to do, and I'll do it to the day that I die, is shouting, getting disruptive, becoming confrontational in any situation doesn't fix the problem that you're trying to address at that moment. Doesn't mean that you can't come back and do just what you did. I wish more people would do what you did. Come down here and say, I'd like to file a complaint.
Right.
That is the way to address the situation, because now I get all the facts.
Yeah.
Or at least the allegation, I can go dig up all the facts, and then I can come to, or the investigator can come to a well-educated and well-informed decision as to whether or not it's within policy or procedures or it's outside of policy and procedures, right?
There you go.
All right. So as citizens, my position would be, when we get together as a community, the community has to say, what is our role? Our role is to protect people and enforce the laws. Now, let me digress for a second.
Mm-hmm.
You went through high school and probably college, and so you're an educated young man, right?
Okay.
When you were in school, let's say 10th grade, and you're walking down the hall and you're talking to your buddies, and your teacher says you need to be quiet, right? And you say, well, I can talk, whatever, blah, blah, blah. The issue is you mad at the teacher because she stopped you, or you're upset with the teacher because she challenged you in whatever you were doing, right? But it was her job the rule was that you are you got to be quiet because you may disrupt the learning environment and prevent another student from learning. Even though you were just going to the gym or going to lunch and you wanted to have a conversation with your best friend or somebody, a classmate, that's not what you're allowed to do. So what we end up doing is we start going, oh, I have the right to do this. I have the right to do that. You can't tell me what I want to do. I don't know how many times I talk to people and they'll say, I can get on social media and say whatever I want. It's my social media page. I can say whatever I want. And what I say to them is, don't take my word for it, because I know you're not going to. Go research that there are case law. There are cases that have gone to court where the court have said, no, you can't get on here.
It's called cyberbullying or something like that.
Well, that's something completely. You can't
you
get
talking
on there
about
and just say whatever you want to say.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? You have to have some, you got to have some basis for some of the things that you put out, right?
I got you.
And with that being said, we can come together as a community, both law enforcement and the community, and work out these differences. But people have to be receptive to say, number one, hey, I didn't know that. You talk about public access buildings. Our schools are public access, but we lock the doors and we prevent people. So unless you have business in the school, you have to make an appointment to come into school. You just can't walk in.
Yeah, well, I understand the concern. I don't mind the concern. I don't mind the questions. Yeah. But
you're talking about the attitude and
if I just give you what I'm doing, if I tell you peacefully, man, I ain't trying to cause no trouble. I'm just going to record and take some video footage and then I'm going to get on up out of here. If I do that, if I come to you like that, your number one job should be just protect the Constitution. He's not doing no disorderly. He's not being,
I think where the wheels of the wagon came off in your situation was when they asked for your ID and then you were like, well, I didn't commit a crime.
Right.
And so it is not. I have experience when we ask people for their identification and they don't want to give their identification. Sometimes those people are less than truthful. And they don't want to give you their identification because they know that if they tell you who they are, then they can't create whatever.
Right. So what does the Fourth Amendment mean to you? Like, what does that mean to you?
Well, the Fourth Amendment talks about search and seizures.
Right. So
if it's not against the law to ask you,
it's not.
And if you say no, I'm not going to comply. I'm not going to allow you to search my stuff. Then I only have two options. Like if I say I want to search your bag, you can say, sure, go ahead and take it off and hand it to me.
Mm-hmm.
That's called with consent.
Okay.
Or if I take it from you and search it, I have to have probable cause.
Absolutely.
Okay, right? And that probable cause has to withstand the test that a judge would. I'd have to go and raise my hand and say, here are all the facts. And the judge say, yep, I believe there's probable cause for you to search it, right? Seizure is seizing something is it's actually several forms. But if I put my hands on you and physically hold you, obviously that's a seizure, right? Because I've got you, right? If I tell you, hey, you're under arrest, because that's called a statutory arrest, even though I don't have my hands on you, right? That's a seizure. If I apply some kind of force, I put you in handcuffs, I hit you with a baton, I spray you with pepper spray, I tase you, I have to use my weapon on you. Those are seizures as well, right? So this case, there's not a Fourth Amendment issue because no one seized anything from you. Now,
well, if he asks me for it and then I decline.
If he asks you.
And I decline. Yeah, is that against the law?
No, it's not against the law.
All right. So that's basically what I did.
Yeah, but if, like what I'm saying to you is like if you go into, we're in Port Wentworth, if you go to Pooler Elementary, you walk in the door, you're going to go to the visitor's office and to the main office and you're going to say, hey, I want to go down to the gym. They're going to say, well, what's your business? Number one. And then they're going to say, we need to see your driver's license or photo ID so we can give you a visitor pass. And if you say, I'm not giving you my license, I'm not giving you my photo ID, then they're going to say you can't come in because we need to know who you are. And they have the authority to do that. Even though it's a school and it's a county-owned building or a Board of Education building,
right,
and tax dollars fund it, people just can't walk up in there without.
Yeah, you take your security measures, but you know, if you come peaceful and then
even though you come in there peaceful,
the
rule is if you want to get past this point, you got to have.
The code tells you, you can't bring no weapons.
Yep,
so they take that security measure.
All that
you go
stuff.
through the mag, and you take
that stuff. But you still have to show your ID. And and people
I don't agree with that though.
Well,
Chief.
the thing is that, and that you have every right to not agree with it.
Right.
But
we could just if it comes down to it, we just gotta
agree to
talk about it. Yeah.
And so.
Have a meeting about it or something like that.
Well,
you know what I'm talking about?
One of the reasons that we do that is we don't want people that have no business being in a school,
just to come in there.
Yeah, so
I understand that.
To give you an example, what if a sex offender came in there and he said, "Oh, I just want to walk around and I'm going to take my phone out and I'm going to video. Then
you take your proper.
So
you take your proper security measures.
Yeah, and that's.
I mean, just like Sergeant Hollis introduced to me. He said we got to have somebody escort you. That was fine with me.
Yeah. But now, the thing is a sex offender is not allowed to be around children. And
now he's breaking the law.
Exactly.
So, that don't apply to me though.
But we don't know that at the time.
You got to do your research and your homework.
That's why we need the license.
No,
because
man. You don't just give up your license just because they say give up your license.
Yeah. It's just like if I stop you on the side of the road and I say, hey, I need to identify you. And you say, no, I'm not going to identify you. Depending on the circumstances, and it depends on the circumstances situation, I may end up having to identify you. It may be that I just let you go.
I ain't gonna agree with that one. But
you don't have to.
You cool?
Okay.
We cool? We cool?
Yeah. So,
we just gonna go along with this complaint.
I need to see the video.
The video? Okay, I'll show you the video. Let me show him the video. Yeah, man. So we just got out of there with Deputy Chief Rodriguez, man. He was pretty okay. Besides trying to, do all that blabbering about what the citizens should do and all that, but we know better than that. But I appreciate him for taking time out today and chilling with me, so that was good on his behalf. He took my complaint. He said he gonna get back with me. They got to go through all the channels and all that. And then I did a verbal complaint on recording, so we'll see how that go. I showed him the video. I know he didn't like Sergeant Hollis's behavior, but we're going to see what they say. I appreciate everybody who subscribed and all the newcomers. If you subscribe, hit that bell. Make sure that you can lock in on all the Iron Horse content that's coming up. This was our very first Follow-Up Friday, and we're going to do Follow-Up Friday every other week. So not next week, but the following week, we're going to do Follow-Up Friday. So we're going to take a poll of the week before Follow-Up Friday, and we're going to see how many people want me to go. You pick out of the videos that you see on my channel, and then we'll see how many people choose a certain video, and then we'll go from there. Just remember to like, share, subscribe, comment, give me some pointers. And we're going to continue this fight, and we're going to continue this movement. So with that being said, until the next video, this is Iron Horse. We out.